Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. It's finally time for the recap of our Aki 2023 tier list. Last time the adjustments were kinda by feel, so this time we're going to set up some objective standards to determine whether or not picks should have been in other tiers. Starting at the bottom, anyone who finishes with 5 or fewer wins is D tier. The logic is basically this. Someone who's C tier and has a reasonable shot at a winning record might still end up with a losing record. But someone who finishes with 5 or fewer wins had a terrible basho, and putting them above D has to be considered a mistake. The only exception, of course, is if they're injured partway through. 6 wins is CD borderline. As much as I want to be really objective, I have to treat this as more of a judgment call, because this is where guys at mid to low Maegashira might do okay, and then wind up with high-ranking wrestlers having bad tournaments at the end. 6 and 9, in my observation, is where we often see the widest variety in actual performances between the guys with that record. 7 wins is C tier. One extra thing going their way would have gotten them a winning record, so they were obviously capable of it, so D is too low. But B tier is saying they'll absolutely have a winning record, which didn't happen. So these guys are all C. 8 to 9 wins is BC tier. If I have a guy with 8 or 9 wins in one of these tiers to start with, I'll leave him unless I have a strong reason to move him. If they were in one of the other tiers, it's more of a judgment call based on whether there was a real chance of them not getting a winning record, and the odds they would have hit 10 wins under slightly different circumstances. 10 wins is B or higher. B tier means they're capable of 10 wins. If they get 10 wins and I initially put them below B, then I was wrong. 10 wins exactly will almost always mean B tier, but for fantasy purposes, it could also warrant a move to S if they were clearly a top option in a lot of fantasy games and the best option in bracket games. 11 wins is A or higher. A is minimum 10 wins, so if they get to 11, clearly they should have been treated as A tier. Again, S tier is possible if they're a top option in most or all fantasy games. 12 wins or more is S tier. You're never going to find a guy with 12 wins who was still only a pretty good option in fantasy, and for the sport in general, 12 wins will win Yushos pretty often. S tier is the only option here. Finally, anyone placed in an injury risk tier will generally not be changed unless there's a non-injury reason to think the placement was wrong. Usually this will take the form of a performance where it's not clear the wrestler would have warranted their placement even if healthy. Alright, let's start with the S and A tiers. So, Terunofuji and Hakawoho were both injured and out, so we know how good they are. They couldn't fight. We leave them there, no big deal. Takayasu, S tier as long as he is healthy. Well, he was mostly healthy for most of the basho. He tweaked something a little bit in there, but still, he got his 10 wins. He was competitive all the way through. Definitely S tier. Kirishima, we have A tier injury risk. A lot of injury risks here because we didn't know how his back was doing. Well, 10 wins expected when healthy, 9 wins when he is mostly okay. He seemed to be about 80-90% for the basho, so that seems pretty much correct. Asanayama, same thing, 9 wins, but clearly hampered a little bit at times. So, okay, A injury risk also seems fine. The guys we got wrong, obviously Hoshoryu struggled badly out of the gate. Yeah, there was a report that his legs were taped, or his one leg was taped, I don't know which one, in practices leading up to the basho. And maybe just pride or something made him untape him and he really wasn't okay at the start. But early on, it was rough. He barely squeaked out the Kachikoshi at the end. He's got to be considered C tier. Even though he got the winning record and we should always expect a winning record, this time C tier. Nishiki Fuji, A injury risk, he very clearly was hampered in his mobility, but not to the point where if he had full mobility, I feel comfortable anymore thinking he definitely would have got 10 wins. Winning record, probably, but still finishing 5 and 10 when his ankle seems just kinda meh, I think C tier is fair here. There's an injury consideration, but he just did not do well overall. B tier. This one, feeling good about this one, pretty much on the money. Daisho, 10 wins. Midori Fuji, 10 wins. Wakamoto Haru, Kota Nawaka, Endo, 9 wins. So all of them were capable of getting to 10, expected a winning record out of all of them, got that out of all of them. B injury risk, Taka Keisho, you know what? I sold him short. He should have been higher than this. Yes, as an injury risk, we didn't know how his knees were going to do, but if healthy enough, he was capable of better than just a basic Kachikoshi. And he ended up winning the whole damn Yusho. Yeah, 11 wins, a relatively low total for a Yusho, but he is still 100% S tier. You win the whole thing, you're S tier, no doubt about it. So with these new standards in place, so far so good. But now we get to that mega C tier. Like I've said previously, I wasn't thrilled that I couldn't figure out who to put elsewhere, but everyone kind of coalesced into this amorphous blob of okayness, so they just ended up here. Since there's so many, I'll start with this double stack of 10 along with the one injury risk. So what do we get right? Hokuto Fuji, 8 wins. Yep, Meisei, 7 and 8, Abi, 9 and 6, Onosho, 9 and 6. All of them perfectly good at C tier. Yeah, the 9 and 6 guys, wait, shouldn't they be B tier? No, because from the positions they were in, it was not a given that they were going to get anywhere near 10 wins. Maybe Onosho should be higher as an injury risk, but this is where I put him. This is what I expected. He did a little bit above what I thought he was going to do. Atami Fuji, obviously completely wrong. S tier all the way. Finished with the June Yusho. I figured something along the lines of what happened would happen, where he would do well and then get an upgraded schedule and then get knocked back. What I didn't expect was that good start was going to be 10 and 1. I figured 8 and 3 maybe. Then you finish with a tough schedule, you get to like 9 and 6. Then this makes sense. But what a blazing start the kid had. He looked great. He's obviously still got to work on some nerves, but amazing job. S tier 100%. And then there's the downgraded guys. Holy cow. What's amazing is how many of them were stacked together. What you tend to see is that if there's a lot of guys who are around the same level of ability, even if that level of ability relative to the division isn't that high, some of them do a little better and some of them do a little worse because they got to fight each other. They got to beat each other, right? What you tend not to see is, so we had Aoyama at 14 East, we had Kodashoho at 14 West, Chiyoshoma at 15 West, Kageyaki at 16 East. So those are 4 guys within 5 ranks of each other, and all of them finished 5 and 10 or worse. And that doesn't include Nishiki Fuji at 13 West right above, and Daishoho at 17 East just below. For that many guys packed that tightly to all do that badly is really crazy. These guys I put in C tier mainly because I didn't know which one of them was going to have a little bit of a better basho. The fact that none of them had a better basho is what blows my mind. So got a lot wrong here, a lot of D tiers. Obviously Nishikigi, I showed him a little bit of love because I put him D tier last time, and that, he threw that right back in my face. So I'm like, I don't know, I guess he's capable of it. Well, the wheels fell off of Cinderella's carriage, so he goes to D tier as well. And now let's do a little editing trickery to stack up the rest. So this group went reasonably well. Ura somehow ended up 9 and 6, had a pretty favorable schedule, but a couple of really nice wins as well. So obviously he gets to stay here. Ganayama as well, 9 and 6, real nice job. Beat really who he was supposed to beat, ended up with some tough matchups, did pretty well. Shonen no Umi, 7 and 8, C tier. Koto Echo, 6 and 9, but I'm giving him a little bit of credit because you gotta realize he started out real tough, but he started out real tough against a lot of guys who ended up doing really well. He had losses to Kinbozan and Midori Fuji and Ganayama. And I mean, Shonen no Umi is just a big boy. That's the kind of dude that Koto Echo can have some trouble with. Yeah, he lost to Ryuden and Oho. Not great. But then he won the fights he was supposed to win. He beat Daishoho, Chiyoshoma, Nishiki Fuji, Kageyaki. That's below his level. So this is a scheduling thing. It was a little bit tougher than he could deal with to get a winning record. And I did figure he was on the wrong end of 50-50. He would be a C- if I had that in here, but still he reasonably stays at C tier. Kinbozan and Mitakeumi early on looking pretty close to B tier, looking like they might get to 10 wins, but they started hot, the schedule got a little tougher. They did about as well as they could. They did about as well as we could reasonably expect. So a couple of worse matchups, a couple of fights that don't quite go their way. They could have ended up with losing records. I feel comfortable leaving him at C tier, but definitely the high end of C tier. Takara Fuji, 7-8, Sadano Umi, 8-7, clean C tier, easy. Hokuseiho and Myogiryu. Now, look, tell me you saw Hokuseiho for the first 7, 8, 9 days of the Basho, and then expected him to start doing more sumo for the last third or so, because I didn't. The first part of it, he looked like he was just going to stand there and get beat up and not do a whole lot of anything. Well, Hakuho must have got in his ear, because that dude started showing some actual game. This is what he's capable of when he is trying, when he puts his actual skills, because he has some skills. He has actually practiced this stuff. When he puts that stuff to use, he can do really well. He just doesn't way too often. Well, this time he did, and he ended up 10-5. So he's B tier. He earned it. Congratulations for making me look a little bit dumb, but thank you for making my Kachi Clash score not horrendous. Myogiryu, I mean, if you could find a guy more surprising and getting 10 wins than Hokuseiho, it's probably Myogiryu. The last time he did it was in 2021. And back then, he was Maegashira 10. Okay, so he was relatively low ranked, but a little younger, probably a little healthier. He's been good. 9-6, 6-9, 7-8, 8-7, a lot of those records, but he hasn't gotten 10 wins in 2 years. Now, some of this was a benefit of schedule. He had some really good wins. Let's not take that away from him. He beat Hokuseiho, although that was early. He beat Tsurugisho when Tsurugisho was on a roll. But towards the end, so he's sitting after 12 days, he had a 7-5 record. Then he got Ryuden and Chiyoshima on back-to-back days. I cannot even begin to guess why. Those were not matchups that matched the type of record he had at all. Chiyoshima, lower ranked and worse record. That one was kind of crazy. But they decided that that was appropriate. Myogiryu took those, and then he had a nice win against Kunbozan to finish it off. So he got his 10, B tier, congratulations to him. D tier, Takanosho, Ryuden, Hiraumi. Now they also finished 6-9, like Kotoeko. But unlike Kotoeko, there really wasn't much hope for them to do any better when you look at who they had to fight. Takanosho started out pretty well. He was at one point 5-4. He had good wins. He had Onosho and Kirishima on back-to-back days and beat them both. He beat Daisho. Like, that's really good. Those are wins I might not have expected him to get. And yet, he still ended up fighting after that Hoshoryu, Meisei, Hokuseiho, Sadano Umi, who was on a roll. He didn't get another win until the last day when he got Daishoho. So if him getting a lot of unexpected wins still led to him getting the kind of schedule that he couldn't beat, then he was never a good C tier pick. He was always D tier. I even said a couple of times to people, I don't know if I said it in a video, like, if I could go back and change anything, it probably would have been Takanosho. And then the way he started, it's like, whoa, maybe I was right keeping him at C tier. No, D tier, definitely. Sumo's answer to Deshaun Watson started out really, really badly, 2-7 after 9 days. And then he pulled wins against Aoyama, Tamawashi, Takara Fuji, lost to Myogiryu, and then beat Kota Shoho, who also looked terrible. So he got the wins he needed to get, and that was still only enough for 6-9. So he's D tier 100%. Hiraumi, similar story. He had a tough lineup early, but I mean, you can see who he's going to fight early, so that's not surprising. But who he got later, yeah, he beat Chiyoshima, he lost to Daishoho, he lost to Aoyama, he got his wins against Kota Shoho, Nishiki Fuji, Tamawashi, but those are wins you have to get in his position. And again, he only got to 6-9. So not great, definitely D tier. And now we get down to the actual D tier. Tamawashi and Daishoho were pretty clear options, but I think they did worse than anybody expected. I don't think you ever pick a single guy to only get 2 or 3 wins. So that was horrendous. And then Oho finishing 5-10 was pretty much right on the money. Like, that's 5-10, 6-9, basically what I thought he was going to do. And there you go. He got exactly that out of him. Tsurugisho showed that his 9-3 start a couple bashos ago was not a mirage. Like, he can actually do that. When he's fighting the lower end guys who don't know how to defend the game he wants to play, he can get work done. He started 7-2. He got an upgrade in competition. It all went to shit. So 8-7 is where he finished, but that is clearly C tier. Shodai was kind of a more BS 8-7, because if you look at who he fought, he had good wins, okay? Beating Hoshoryu, even a struggling Hoshoryu, pretty good. Beating Takakeisho, pretty good. But other than that, he started out 3-6 after 9 days. And who did he beat to make it all the way back to 8-7? Tamawashi, Oho, Nishikigi, who he should normally beat, and Takara Fuji. He had a win against Asanayama on day 14. Nice win. Give him that. And if he had lost that and finished 7-8, he'd still be C tier. But he did so badly that he ended up with a schedule that puffed up his record. So yeah, he gets his C tier, but it's not well earned. And given that he's going to go up in rank, he's going to be D tier next time as well. That's it for the tier list. Hope you had fun. The yeets are in motion. The yeets will come next, hopefully sooner rather than later. Look forward to that. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.